Okay, I'm good.
I'm rolling with that.
Our call to celebration this morning comes from Nick Cable. I've always had a tough time falling asleep. In fact, as a child, I recall being skeptical about the idea of sleep altogether. I thought, who needs it anyways? Can't we just be awake all the time? Isn't that what life is all about? Not surprisingly then, a few years ago when I was asked by my now mother-in-law whether I was a morning person or a night person, I responded simply with great enthusiasm. I'm a people person. I love being with people in religious and secular contexts, participating in fun, social justice, community service activities. There's always something meaningful to be done. On the other hand, sleep has always seemed like such a waste of time. A third of our lives straight down the drain. However, as I've grown up, I realized that something magical happens at this time, just before sleep. We're offered a rare opportunity to sort through the noise and distractions of our lives, to arrive at a place where we can hear the silent prayers of our hearts and of the world. And I believe it's in this silence before sleep we are able to touch the most authentic piece of our identities and our dreams for the future. Our dream is not just to take Robert Frost's road less traveled, but to proclaim that this is the road we must travel together. We dream and pray for a new way of being in relationship with one another, both in our churches and in all our communities of engagement locally, nationally, internationally. We are reimagining what sort of world we seek to create together for the 21st century. We are the dreamers of dreams that have been passed down for millennia that affirm an eternal belief in a world not yet created, yet one that is surely emerging around us every day. It is a world that celebrates the diversity and sacredness of life and works toward the liberation and happiness of all. Unitarian Universalists are engaging in the important conversations about how our identities as individuals and as a faith community must ignite in us an urge to dream a little bigger, pray a little louder, and cherish those few moments before sleep when we can touch the divinity within our hearts.
why ever you've come, whether this is your first time or you've been coming a lifetime. You are welcome here today. It is a blessing to be together in this special place. Today's service focuses on what we yearn for in a religious or spiritual community. I personally seek a place where I can experience real community, where I can deepen my own spiritual practice, where I can learn from and share with others, where I can volunteer and practice service through getting involved in community activities, and where I can share in music. This is why I love RRUC. So why do you come to church? And what do you yearn for? We look forward today to hearing from our special guest, Minister Carrie McDonald. Carrie has been a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, and he's Director of Outreach for the Unitarian Universalist Association. Welcome, Carrie. If you are new today, we encourage you to sign our guest book either in the lobby or at the welcome table in the fellowship hall. We invite you to join us for coffee and conversation after the service, and if you do, please take a yellow mug so we can personally greet you. Again, welcome.
There are always plenty of activities here in the life of our congregation, and I encourage you, when you have the time, to look over the insert in your order of service or the e-weekly, which we send every week with information about what's happening here at River Road. But there are a few things I want to highlight today. One is that next Sunday is our Pet Blessing Sunday, on which you are invited to bring your well-behaved or reasonably well-contained pet with you to the service. Or if your family, like mine, is blessed to live with a not well-behaved and not reasonably contained pet, bring a picture and we'll bless them too. We'll have the chance to enjoy fellowship and fun with one another and one another's pets after the service, and to celebrate the love that does transcend all boundaries. You can sign up for the River Road All Community Retreat at the retreat table, which is outside the main doors today. Or if you are unable to attend the retreat itself, join us on that same Sunday, September 7th, for our second annual Retreat at Home Barbecue. Either way you slice it, that weekend after Labor Day is a great one in our community. And finally, we are in need of more male mentors for our coming-of-age youth. So gentlemen, we're looking at you. If you feel called to teach and to learn alongside some of the most amazing young people you will ever meet, this is a chance to do work that really serves, and work that serves your spirit too. Our chalice lighting is by Jean Wallstrom. In this small flame dwell the beacon light of lanterns guiding travelers home. The warmth of hearth fires tended through the generations. The transforming energy of furnaces and the power and life of our sun. May these blessings, warmth and life and life-giving energy be kindled anew in each and every one of us today. Our opening hymn is in your teal hymnal, Building a New Way, and I do believe that Scott's going to play it through one time, and then we'll join in and sing all 4 verses. together because there is no better place to be real than in a community of friends, a community of people we may only have just met but are committed to walking alongside in honest ways, sharing the fullness of our lives, our joys and our sorrows, that which brings us to laughter and brings us to tears. In a moment, I'll invite you, if you have a joy or a sorrow which has truly changed your life since last we were together, to raise your hand or stand. We'll bring a microphone to you. First, I have some joys, some concerns, some prayers to be held for our whole community. Yesterday, I had the great honor of officiating at a memorial service in memory of Doug Liebert, the son of our own Myrna Bernstein and the stepson of Bob. At just 51 years old, Doug died earlier this summer alongside his 4-year-old granddaughter Zoe in a tragic airplane crash. Seldom have I seen a family touched by so much tragedy and yet held by such love and even good humor amidst it all. Should you ever find yourself doubting the power of the human spirit, just stand in a circle of loving, breathing people and let your faith be renewed. Bob and Myrna are returning to their summer house in Portland to rejuvenate for a few weeks before coming home here to us. They would welcome your cards and your emails as they continue this journey forward together. And what shall we say about Ferguson, Missouri this week? My thoughts and our thoughts, the thoughts of this nation, crowd in upon one another. History repeating itself over and over again. The tragic reality that every time I hear of a shooting in some city's streets, near or far, I know without even asking that the victim is African American, probably young, often unarmed. The riot gear, the fear. The Molotov cocktails reminding us of burning buildings on 14th Street not so many decades ago. The teenagers with their hands held high, and in time the good-hearted captain of the State Highway Patrol brought in to say something human in the middle of all the clanking tanks and armor. There are no easy answers in a time of this unrest. But we know that the boy is dead, and that the only ray of hope so far is the chance to see our interconnectedness beneath our differences, and to build up a new way, piece by tragic piece, from there. And now your joys, your sorrows, that which has changed you and blessed you. Raise your hand and stand.
Hi, I'm Nancy Meyer, and I have a friend named Dory Fuchs who got married in this church in 1996. The first time I ever came here. 2.5 weeks ago, she and her husband were traveling in France visiting his family and their godchildren, and she contracted bacterial meningitis. She has been in a drug-induced coma since then, and they medevaced her to her home in Birmingham, Alabama now. She's still in the coma. They're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So I just want you to keep her in your prayers. She's got one eye that's reacting to light, and hands are reacting to some touch and some other stimuli. But right now it's a pretty serious situation. So please keep Dory in your thoughts and prayers.
Good morning. I'm very happy and brief. My friend Andy, who was doing work in Guinea, arrived at 4 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, which was 2 o'clock in the morning for his time. So I couldn't drag him to church this morning. Just couldn't. But he is home, and he'll be looking to see you and talk about his experience in the Peace Corps in Guinea. On October the 19th, we're having a fundraiser for the Doctors Without Borders.
Good morning, I'm Louise Quick. Yesterday, Bob and I visited Shirley Kavanagh, and she is doing much better.
of my loss. They changed their plans instead of going to Wisconsin that they had already planned for. They came to visit me and so I'd like to Hallie, my daughter-in-law Rebecca, and my only granddaughter Ada. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Goldberg. I have a joy to share. Don't mistake it for pride, bragging, but my older son just hit a home run this year. He's got a passion for writing poetry, and he just got accepted to Johns Hopkins MFA program. They accept 4 people a year, full ride, and he's pursuing his passion that way. He continues to write. He's got over 30 poems published. He also just this year found out he was recalled and re-invited back to the Federal Writers Conference, which is a big conference for writers, and his idol is going to be there, Natasha Tripaway, and then he found out just 2 weeks ago that he was accepted as one of the, he's going to be in the anthology of the best of poets of 2014. His name is Ben Wolfer.
Hi, I'm Greg Patterson. I just returned from a month in Europe with my grandchildren and children, and got given the great news that a granddaughter and her husband, who have tried for 9 years to have a baby, have succeeded, and the new baby is due January 21st. That will be our 8th great-grandchildren. So the family is very happy about this news.
In the midst of all this, with poetry and pride and loss and the surprise of a long-sought new life, with everything we bring into these doors, we gather in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Won't you join me? In gatherings like this, we are stirred like the leaves rustling among sacred trees, tossed hither and yon until we come to rest together here, quietly, softly. We come to gather strength from each other. We come to give strength to each other. We come to ask for strength from the spirit of all that is and all that is not. When our hearts sing or when they frown, it is the way of compassion telling us to give. It is the way of peace telling us to share our gifts. For we are happiest and most powerful when love is made apparent in us and through us. Spirit of the circle that is love, as we twirl and dance in this life, we give thanks for reminding us each day of our task of ministering to each other. With a searching glance, a safe touch, a generous smile, a thoughtful word. Thank you for reminding us that we are always building our beloved comunidad. Thank you for reminding us that through our covenant with you, we covenant with each other, and through this we are made whole. In gratitude, we celebrate with our open hearts and minds. We discover who we are, separate from each other, and yet within one another all the same. In the circle that holds all life and all loss, may we ever work toward widening its boundaries until there are none. Amen, and blessed be.
personal joy or sorrow.
Please join me in the responsive reading printed in your order of service at the top of the second page. We must shine.
We must shine now.
This is the goal toward which we stretch.
Step by step.
In our own time, at our own pace.
As our reading unfolds and our hearts open.
We become gentler and more compassionate.
Yet brighter, more empowered, and fearless.
We have been holding on, holding back.
Playing small, hiding our light under a bushel.
Enough of that.
It is time to let go.
We are needed now, all of us.
All of us together. All those who feel a calling to be who we are.
little something with me this morning, which is that if I happen to say something that you like or agree with, you can let me know. You can say yes, or that's right, or amen, or preach it. I'm okay with that one too. So, I like little hands. So no pressure, but can we give it a try? Can we give it a try? So I just want to start today with a question, one that came very thoughtfully introduced at the beginning of this service, which is, what keeps you coming back to this place? You all showed up here on a beautiful summer Sunday morning, and I know for a fact there are excellent brunch places not a 10-minute drive from here. And as Unitarian Universalists, we don't guilt you into coming. We don't say you're going to hell if you don't make it here on Sunday, but you keep coming back. We keep coming back. Hundreds of thousands of us across the country. So why is it? For the last 50 years, Unitarian Universalism has been a religion of choice. About 75% of us didn't grow up Unitarian Universalists. 75% of us grew up in Christian churches. And that means that we chose to be here. Many of us left the faith tradition of our childhood because we wanted someplace that was going to be more welcoming to our identities, to our beliefs, to our families. How many folks here did not grow up Unitarian Universalists? That's right. Look around for a second. You see that? And that's the same in every room, every sanctuary that I go to. We are here because we choose to be here. So why do we keep coming back? I believe it's because this faith saves lives. I think we save lives in small ways and large ones. We save the lives of families and children. Sometimes we even save a soul or two, if you'll allow me. So I grew up Unitarian Universalist, and this faith saved my life on more than one occasion, time and time again. When I was a little kid growing up in a rural southern town, searching for the courage to stand up for my beliefs, this faith saved my life. As a misfit teenager, UU congregations and youth conferences said, you belong here. As an adult, trying to find my way in the world, searching for something to anchor me amidst all the swirling around me, I found that in UU values and UU faith communities. When the world feels caught in a storm, tempest-tossed, we look to our faith to stand up to those big questions, the biggest ones, and ground us in what all that can mean, what we can do. I was talking to Nancy earlier this week, and I said, do you know what gets the most shares on the UUA Facebook page? It's not news articles, and it's not the stories about the good justice work that we're doing and all that. It's prayers. It's the prayers. It's that people are hungry for that level of response when, especially when it's an ugly week in the news. Prayers speak to that deep need for a faith community. So this faith saved lives. And I'm willing to bet that it saved many of yours as well.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what else is true? Is far too often I hear this. Where has this faith been all my life? I was 60 years old. I was 25 before I found it. Where has this been? I got one of these emails just this week about a dedicated lay leader who said, where are we in helping these folks, in an article they read about a town in Texas. Where has this faith been all my life? And it breaks my heart that we aren't better at reaching those folks and letting them know that we're here, what we do, why that matters. That's right. We heard this loud and clear in 2011 when the UUA undertook a multi-year survey of appreciative inquiries called Gathered Here. And thousands of UUs across the country participated and talked about what they loved about the churches And you know what one of the things that came out of that was? Is people said, we want to be known. We want the world to know who we are and why our faith is so powerful. And not just get that blank stare when you say, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. Maybe some of you had that. Yeah. So it just seems more important than ever in a world that is crying out for the healing sound of affirmation, compassion, and justice. What is that worth to you? What would you be willing to risk for this faith? What did someone have to risk for you to be here today? And I would say that in this day and age, for people of faith, for religious folks, perhaps the riskiest thing is doing nothing at all. If you haven't heard, the tide of organized religion seems to be ebbing in America. Our siblings in mainline Protestant churches like Presbyterians, Episcopalians have seen membership drops of a quarter or more in less than the past decade. And UUs are pretty lucky. We're pretty stable, basically treading water against the current here. But this is happening, and it's happening fast. I've got a number for you. 33. 33 is the millions of American adults, roughly a fifth of us, who say they have no religious affiliation. Not, I don't go to church on Sunday or synagogue on Saturday, but I'm not connected to any religious community whatsoever. 33 is also the percentage of people my age, what you might have heard called the millennial generation, who say they are non-religious. So it's 20% for adults, but it's 33%. It's a full third and growing of folks who are my age. This is the highest that it's been since World War II. It's sky high. Have you all heard those numbers before? Some of you? Is that surprising? There are big changes going on in religion in America, and we see them playing out in our own congregations. The average age, according to the most recent survey of UUs, so this is the average age of UUs. You know what the age was? It was 61. And that's up. That's up from 51 when we did this survey 10 years ago. And that's true. It's true that so we struggle to retain even the folks who grew up in our churches like me, even the folks who grew up through fabulous youth programs like I know the one that you have here at River Road. So figuring out what it's going to take to respond to this new reality, what it's going to take for us to resonate with younger generations, for us to live into being a faith for our time, is hard. It's really hard. But I'll tell you where I think it has to start, and that's with listening and with noticing the world that's around us and with remembering what our true purpose is here in this world. That's where we got to start. And I think that that can be a paradigm shift when you start by listening and discerning rather than starting from what makes us individually comfortable or our individual preferences. Listening helps us hear the call of our congregations to become more multi-generational and more multicultural, just like the world around us. We certainly need to evolve in those directions, and I see many congregations here in the DC area leading the way. And noticing helps us see the hunger for faith community in entirely new kinds of formats and approaches. And I hear stories all the time about new ways that people are imagining their faith. I was just hanging out with some amazing youth leaders from across the country at a program called Summer Seminary. And these are high school students who decided to go to camp with us because they might want to be a minister someday, or a religious educator, or a musician. So it was a select group. And we were asking them, it was just a quick little exercise of new ways that they can imagine. And the creativity was right under the surface. Right under the surface about ways that they could imagine expressing their faith. It didn't just revolve around Sunday morning worship. And they came up with UU cruises that you can go and visit holy sites across the world. And people who want to explore these things. They had an interfaith online TV station where you get to experience different religious rituals under the framework that we affirm, the wisdom that comes from many sources. And I'm sure if we did the same exercise with this group of folks, you have the same response. But I want to hold up that there's a way to unite the notion of congregations being able to evolve and to try new things. Those are not, in fact, separate, but that there is a common thread. Because congregations themselves, yourselves, ourselves, can be innovators. You can try all kinds of new things that start with that listening and the noticing and the remembering. That clear sense of who you are in your community, what you do, why that matters to the world around you, that is the fulcrum to leverage the imagination and courage needed to create the faith communities of the future. That purpose is the fulcrum that you can use to leverage the imagination and courage needed to create the faith communities of the future. Have you realized that congregations are ideal laboratories for experimentation and innovation? Great places to try new stuff. Do you do this already? One way to look at churches is as small and flexible nonprofit organizations embedded in their communities. We don't have a UU bishop. Gosh, talk about jobs I wouldn't want. Telling us what to do, and in our practice, we have open theology. We have the freedom to choose our ministries and programs. Churches have the mundane stuff, bank accounts, attorneys, consultants, employee ID numbers, real estate, assets, governance structures, dedicated volunteers, and talented, well-trained professional staff. And I know a lot of folks with great ideas who would just give their right leg to be able to have those resources at their disposal. And here we have them in 1,000 congregations across the country. So why innovation? Why experimentation? Why is it important to try new things? And I'll give you 3 reasons that this is why I think we should be responding to these changes. First, I want to tell you quickly about a study in 2011 that asked young Christians, why are you leaving church? And they gave a list of 6 reasons. And the first 5 were the churches are overprotective, antagonistic towards science, judgmental and simplistic about sexuality, too exclusive and unfriendly to doubt. Well, have I got religion for you? As Unitarian Universalists, we don't welcome doubt, we demand it, right? Our coming of age services, you do this in your congregation where people deliver a credo statement at the end. It's such a powerful experience. We are far from being judgmental about sexuality. We pioneered the Welcoming Congregations program and have been out on the front lines of marriage equality. We wrote the gold standard sexuality education curriculum program for the whole lifespan, our whole lives, right? We wrote that with our friends in the United Church of Christ. We should be proud of that. Right, so if that's all there is, then we're sitting pretty. But that's not the whole story, because that 6th thing in the survey was that these young folks of the church seemed shallow, and stodgy, and stuffy, and irrelevant. And that's one that we sometimes grapple with too. And it's for a good reason. It's because we share a common lineage with these churches, right? Again, so many of us grew up in those churches. We were liberal Protestants until the early 20th century. So that's where our governance structures and our worship format comes from. That's not a surprise. Even though that's not where we are, that's where we come from. So we're still an institution in an era that's not that institution friendly. So experimentation is what helps us get out of those boxes and what helps us realize our potential here. The second reason that innovation is so important is because it engages the margins, not just the core of our community, but it engages folks who are at the margins. The folks who are sitting looking both inward and outward at the same time. That perspective is so valuable. What if your youth ran the church? Maybe not the finance committee, that's a pain. But what if the youth ran the church? What about folks who didn't grow up with Judeo-Christian backgrounds? What if they were structuring worship every week? What would that be? What if our folks who are facing greater mobility challenges and maybe can't make it to this campus every week, what if they designed the programs? What would that be? So by listening to the margins and experimenting, we can help expand who we are, our sense of who we can be. Empower the margins, make space for difference, and we can embrace that as a source of strength. And third, and I hope I don't need to convince you of this, is that we are a bold people. Boldness is just who we are. Right? We go where other folks can't or won't. From Theodore Parker, the abolitionist preacher, to ministerial pioneer Olympia Brown, to the 1970s General Assemblies that endorsed gay unions, and even the fellowship movement of the 1950s, we have a tradition of being unafraid. There is no reason to start.
Amen.
Amen. So, help understand new ways of being, embrace the margins, and claim our heritage of boldness. And lest this all seem a little academic, I want to give you a couple of examples of congregations that are already doing this right now. Harmony UU Congregation, founded only 3 years ago in the suburbs of Cincinnati, is a young and vibrant group of folks, lay-led, no minister, but they're redefining multi-generational community there. Lots of young families, services tend to attract folks who didn't grow up religious at all. And they don't use words like liturgy and hymnal because that feels like it's putting too much distance between people. So instead, they have a conversational tone, they have presentations on issues that are in kind of a TED Talk format. The kids hang out and do the joys and services as well. And there's plenty of references to the Decemberists and show tunes. Decemberists is a band. So, and to make this high-quality worship sustainable, this is what I love, and why didn't I think of that, right? They use an AABB format, so they do one service twice. And that means that you don't have to come every week, and you don't have to call your kids out of bed every week and get them dressed. You can come twice a month and still feel like you are getting all of that sustenance from your faith. So that's harmony, right? Very cool stuff. Here's another one, Unity Temple. Unity Temple, you may have heard because their building was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, who was a member of their congregation, just outside Chicago. You know, it's in all your architecture textbooks, and they do wonderful worship and ministry there, and that's good. But here's what I want you to hear about Unity Temple. In the last few years, they've also decided to turn themselves outward. They helped start a walk-in day ministry in which folks come in off the street who are struggling with finding housing and stable life, and they give them advice, and they give them clothing, and they give them directions, and maybe a little bus change. And this is my favorite part. A few years ago, they decided that every Sunday, everything they pull out of the collection plate goes to a charitable cause. And when they made that decision, it wasn't that they didn't struggle to pay their salaries and to keep the lights on like everyone else, but they chose the bold path of generosity and said, we will live into our purpose and find a way, and they have. And they've been doing that for years. And that's just 2 small ways in which Unity Temple is doing amazing work just outside. So that's neat. I'll tell you one more. First Parish in Bedford, Massachusetts. There are, and I'm telling you this living in Boston, plenty of old school Unitarian-style congregations in small New England towns on the green. But few of them have the sense of humor that First Parish Bedford can boast. They are constantly experimenting with new rituals and ways of doing worship. One week it may be a literal circus on the front lawn with balloons and donuts and comedy riffs. And then the next Sunday they're connected to their past by pulling out the communion silver that lives at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts for most of them. That's pretty cool. And they started a bus service in their town on Sundays, not just to take their folks to church, but to take seniors to any church they wanted to go to. They just said, hop on board. That's cool, right? So that's First Parish Bedford. They are unafraid to follow wherever their ministry leads. So those 3 inspiring examples that I just told you about are each breakthrough congregations, identified by the UUA because they are growing, because they are vibrant. And I want you to know that every time I give a talk like this, or I do a sermon, I use a different set of examples. So I didn't use those examples last time. Last time I talked about Harrisburg and Albuquerque. So I just want you to know that there are that many amazing peers of yours out there to listen to and learn from. And that's just amazing that they can all knock your socks off. So I encourage you to check out more information on them. Their stories are picked up by the UU World magazine. Or you can go to the UUA's website, it's like uua.org/breakthrough, and you can read all their stories and hear about the sense of self that they have that's so powerful, and they all talk about it. That's what's cool. When you listen to them tell their own stories, you hear them talk about their purpose and their mission, and how their fidelity to that helps them overcome whatever reluctance or fear that might have stood in their way. We have an open theology, a commitment to diversity, the congregational polity, if you know that term, that are a natural environment for trying new things. And all we need to ignite that is a sense of purpose and a possibility strong enough to overcome the status quo. Are you willing to try new things? Do you do that already here at River Road? Are you? Yes? Maybe? Have some coffee and then we'll see. And I know your congregation already is figuring out how to emphasize fellowship and spirit and service ever more, and that sounds like a great place to start. So listening and noticing deeply is the next step for figuring out what that vision calls you to do. Know that you will stumble, you will make mistakes, you will fall, and you will help each other get back up and keep going, and know that your possibilities here really are infinite. And I step away from the pulpit to close. I wanted to tell you a parable, a story. 100 years ago, a man goes to see the wise woman and says, I want to change the world. And the wise woman, who I like to think of in this story as the Dowager Countess of Grantham, if you watch Downton Abbey, maybe from the old version. The Dowager says, you must command the loyalties of men, because of course it was just men. You must command the loyalties of men. You must build grand structures and buildings. You must have conventions and bylaws and constitutions to demonstrate that you're serious. And you need governance structures to direct those men once you have their loyalty. And with that vast institution you will build, that is how you will change the world. 100 years ago, so today, another man, goes to see a wise woman and says, I want to change the world. How do I do that? And the wise woman, who I think now is probably Michelle Obama, if I'm going to be honest, she says, you need to find your people, you need to inspire them and give them the tools they need. You need committed volunteers, a network of points of light spread out like 1,000 across the country, like say maybe 1,000 congregations. And you need to set them on fire, get them fired up and ready to go. So we may have inherited an institution that was built for another age, but we've also got everything that we need to be a faith for our time. And that starts with the listening and the noticing and the remembering. And it's going to be different for different places. So I don't know what that will look like for River Road. That's up to you to find out. But I do know that the possibilities are limitless. There's nothing standing in our way but our own 2 feet. So don't let nothing hold you back. Amen. Amen. Rise, embody your spirit to join us for our final hymn, We Would Be One.
We
Thank you.